you mentioned a term too, and frankly, I'll be perfectly honest. I don't think I've ever heard it before I started conversing with you, but CompLaw. And you referenced both, Symbium and TurboTax as CompLaw type companies. If you could break it down in kind of simple concepts for our listeners, how would you define, I guess, or explain what a CompLaw company is and kind of how it works?
Yeah, so computational law is, basically mechanizing laws and regulations, turning them into computer code. And that's essentially all it means. So, I can kind of talk about some of the benefits of that if that would be helpful.
Absolutely.
But, I gave some examples of TurboTax being a computational law company as well, where they take the IRS tax code and they build it right into their software so anyone can understand what their tax obligations are, among other things. So Symbium does that, except with regards to the planning and zoning codes and large data sets, making them very easy to navigate for the public to understand. It's not, it's pretty much, vertical agnostic. It can be applied in any space. And the benefits of what, as it is today, Symbium.com, what the experience is primarily three essential components. And I'm naming some of the benefits here of our services. One of them is search, which is the ability for homeowners, real estate agents, the general public to get answers to their search inquiries about any property, not just a search that yields documents and answers, but it actually gives you that visual sort of cue of this is what I want to see and here it is right on the map. The second is with regards to data. So all of your property data in one place, or the property data about the building that you're interested in learning more information about. It could be your neighbor, it could be a property that you want to acquire. So those two components, search, data, and then finally services. And this is where CompLaw comes in. So this is about gaining control over what the regulations mean for your particular situation in an instant with just a few clicks. In the case of ADUs, Symbium is not just listing the regulations that are applicable in that jurisdiction with regards to ADUs. There's some sites that do that. We've incorporated the ADU regulations right into the web application so you can visualize what's allowed, and the building that you draw, or if you select one of the ADU designs and you drop it on your property, you kind of see what's possible. As you move it around, it'll change color depending on whether it can or can't be in that particular location. And so
if I moved a ADU too close to a fence line or a property line,
right,
the Symbium.com may say, no, Zach, you can't put it there. It's too close.
Right. Well, it not only will say that, it'll visually indicate to you that the ADU's color will change. It may become red or orange depending on what the violation is, and it'll give you instant feedback on what you've done wrong. That, by the way, is something that is unique to Symbium for this particular type of application. Not only that, I mentioned TurboTax is an example of a computational law type of company, but the difference is it may have taken very, very long time for TurboTax, the Intuit folks, to create that system. Symbium can create complex systems with complex regulations in them in a matter of days or weeks. And so that significant implications in terms of how we update those systems. And outside of Symbium, so I talked a little bit about the essential components of CompLaw that make it a success in the way that we're doing it. Outside of that, the benefits are that it alleviates the burden on the planners at the planning counters when it comes to these redundant, non-discretionary questions. What can I build? What forms do I need to fill out? What does it cost? What is the data concerning my property? Is it 1,000 square feet? Is it 1,100 square feet? So those are the kinds of questions that, are not a good use of planners' time. It's not a good use of public resources. And this is how we've been noticing the planners are telling us, thank you so much for creating this service that we are ourselves using at the planning counter, and also asking the public to use so that they come to us as better informed citizens.
I didn't even think about the impact it would have on the city planners, zoning approval committees, being able to speed up that process to be able to approve the things, because they wouldn't have to check them with the same, I mean, they wouldn't have to go through all the same steps to check it. So I guess that didn't even click with me until you said it, but you're right. And it frees up all those government resources that it could be better used in multiple other ways.
Right. That's exactly right.
Now, I understand, at least based upon some earlier conversations that we had, that Symbium is when you talk about the ADUs and the housing crisis in California, that you're kind of focused on California. Do you see an acute need, I guess, in California for Symbium based upon the kind of market demands we've been talking about?
Yeah, definitely. So, I see an acute need for Symbium in every state, not just California. In fact, not only have we been approached by planning leaders and, technology officers in other states asking us, when can we configure their state on our platform, but we've been approached by other countries who are interested in what we're building to streamline the development process, to create more housing, to make sure that the approvals of permits happen much faster. There's no need for them to take 6 months to a year for that approval to take place. We started with California because the company is based here and we were well networked within the state with some proofs of concept and some initial momentum.
Now, has there been any, as we talked about California, has there been any kind of recent legislation that may have affected Symbium, or more importantly, the housing market, that has kind of led or catapulted the need for Symbium?
Definitely. So one of them I talked about, which is the ADU regulations in California, and that they're basically statewide. So it's one critical California-wide regulation that is a part of this. And now we're seeing other states also incorporating ADUs as, a method of increasing their affordable housing inventory. But there's also another regulation which was just passed, Senate Bill 9 or SB 9, which allows the rezoning of certain single-family lots to become 2 lots, each with 2 residential units on them. So a single-family lot could effectively become 4 units. And that's in response to the housing crisis in the state. These are perfect examples of the kinds of sort of drastic measures that a state would need to take in order to fulfill, the sort of the underdevelopment of housing, the crisis that's being faced.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I was imagining how this might play out with using Symbium, that I may be able to go on Symbium, look at my property address, and then make a determination as to whether or not I could split my lot and add multiple dwellings. Is that fair?
Yeah, so right now we haven't incorporated this SB 9 regulations in there, so you wouldn't be able to see it. It's actually going to be incorporated very soon. So you will be able to see that shortly. But at the very least, you'll be able to see or obtain property permit history for a property. So you can see, whether something that's been built on the property has been done with a permit. You can see from that information what may be possible on your property, which may be next door. So you can kind of get a sense, you can do satellite view, so you can kind of see what's on different lots. And especially in your neighborhood, you kind of get a sense of what's possible. And, so that being this portal that provides you with that property data, the ability to perform that feasibility of ADUs on any property in California, as well as to obtain permit history on any property in California, makes Symbium very unique in the market.
And I think this is one of the first times you may have mentioned it, but the permitting process and having those permits on record, easily compilable in one location, I think also is an interesting aspect, because, for example, I live in a 100-year-old home. I know that things have happened in my house over the 100 years, that the pipes are not original. There was no, air conditioning unit when it was first built. But I have no idea when some of this work was completed, what permits may have been pulled or not pulled. So it would be interesting to see that compiled and know who was doing the work when and how it was done, to give that kind of backstory. I love living in an old home, but sometimes you catch surprises, and frankly, having those permits would be beneficial to me. So I think that's a really interesting aspect. Now, as you're,
and one of the things I'll say, Zach, just you touched on a really important point. That is something that is a very high need, not just for the public, but for real estate agents who are performing transactions on properties, who are representing, say, buyers who want to get instant insight into what's been done on this property, or what is allowed based on what other properties have done nearby. So super important to have that. And that information is available in, the permitting departments and the planning departments across the country. So it's not like we're making public stuff that's never been public before. It's just hard to access it, Right. So we're just making it much easier for people to get that info.
Right. Now tell us, where do you see, I guess, some of the biggest challenges and some of the biggest opportunities for Symbium as you kind of move forward?
Yeah, so I would say that, without a doubt, the Symbium's CompLaw tech is going to revolutionize the public's experience of really anything that is highly regulatory in nature, including other areas of government, including insurance, financial services, legal services. But today we're focused on housing and properties at the moment.
And I think you may have kind of already touched on this, but I always kind of want to ask, what do you see the vision for the future of Symbium? Is that where you see the future? Is there anything else maybe you want to touch on or talk about?
Yeah, so I think, from our perspective, it's very, very simple. We see a future where the public can understand instantly. They have instant control over their own data, their own, how the regulations apply to them. It doesn't matter if you're, as my co-founder says it, driving your car across state lines and the car is actually telling you what exactly you should and shouldn't do in terms of, the speed you're driving, or maybe you should throw your weed out the window because it's not legal in one state where it was legal in the state that you started in. So that's our vision of the future, is a world where people have that instant access to what the regulations mean for them at the time that they need it, and not some other time or expense much later down the road.
Yeah. Awesome. Leila, I greatly appreciate your time here today, taking the time to meet with us and to talk to our listeners, and frankly, for testing this experiment of releasing our first video relating to the Reminger Report podcast. So thank you so much for joining us as our guest today.
I had a lot of fun. I can't wait to return.
Okay, we will look forward to having you back. I think that Symbium is going to have a bright future, so we look forward to having you back and getting an update as to where you are in the future.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Zach.
Thank you.